We are definitely having a celebration across the world of Contraception Day. But Sylvie, I'm going to start with you. What is there to celebrate, especially with these fears of, a booming population and also the stigma still attached to the use of contraception? What is there to celebrate, really?
Thank you very much, Jen. Personally, I'm very happy, and I know many people are very happy to see that our country and the world can really recognize this topic, talking about contraceptions and having a dedicated day where everyone, researchers, practitioners, and us, the users, really get together and discuss and try to demystify this topic, which is very important. Thank you very much.
Right. Professor, what's there to celebrate? There are people who feel that there isn't much to actually celebrate because, one, there's still very little information as far as contraceptives are concerned. We have many people who are potential users having fears that, there's still side effects attached to using them, and so they are shunning away from them. Others are still stigmatized for using contraception. So what is there to celebrate on this 26th day of September?
Thank you, Nsanga. I think there's a lot to celebrate. One of them is to celebrate knowledge. At least for the first time in history, people are talking about it. That's something to celebrate.
Right.
We have people like Sylvie who can talk like knowledgeable people, but also end user who can try to go live to break the myth. And that's something to celebrate, that everyone is talking about it and we're telling people, this is normal, this is your life, talk about it.
Right. Sylvie, so why was it difficult to talk about contraceptives that Professor here says that there is something to celebrate today? What was holding us back from having these kind of discussions, from talking about this very important subject matter?
Yeah, thank you very much, Eugene. It's known that anything dealing with sex and everything around has been taboo in our culture, a patriarchal system, which really holds women's health as an issue, which doesn't have to be in public. It's personal. It has to stay in the family. Yeah. So people were not talking about that because everywhere we go, in the churches, everywhere, they show us that it's a sin to use contraception. And there was a woman was regarded, compared according to the number of children they were having. So there was this resistance in many countries about talking about women's health in general and coming to contraception. It's still today, people are thinking it's something which should not come on the table. So our role as feminists is really bringing these things on the table, talking about it daily, like any meal we should get daily, because anyway, people are having sex every day, and why not talking about contraception, which is one benefit for us women and men, family in general, and even the people who are not in families, because people have also this tendency of thinking the people who need contraception are married women like me. So we really want this subject to be an easy subject which can be discussed in all areas, where young people are, where adult people are, religious people, politicians. We want really them, when they are planning, they think about this thing. Like
not just themselves in the boardrooms to decide on this one.
Yes, when educationalists are teaching, our young people talk about reproductive health and all different methods of contraception.
Right. Talking of teaching, Professor, here you stand in front of adults, students, and the rest to talk to them about these issues of of their bodies and their concern, the concern about that. But of course, let's now talk about the money and the populations, because what we know that population growth is actually slow in developed countries. But when you look on the flip side, we have African countries or other developing countries, the population is actually increasing, and the continent, is going to suffer, according to experts, when it comes to the strain of the resources. So I want to hear from you. Rwanda specifically, how bad will a population explosion be for us? Because some people say that the more we are, the more we increase the workforce for the country. How bad will this be to us then?
That's the tricky part of it. The more we are, the more we work for. But work what? And earn what? From where? You need a big working class, yes, but proportionally, it should be feeding less. Yeah. So if you have a working class that should have developed infrastructure, that should have income, but if you have an income, but you're feeding many mouths, huge families, then however much you work, you won't progress.
But they always argue that the government is there to provide for its people.
But the government, there's nothing the government, where does the government get money to invest in infrastructure? It's from the work that we do. It's from the taxing the people who make income.
Yeah.
But if people are not making income, where will government get money to invest in infrastructure? That's the dilemma.
That's the
People
dilemma.
think government make money from where? Government gets money from the people that are working. I mean, if you don't have people who are working, who are educated, who are healthy, you need the health people to work, make money, government tax them, invest in infrastructure, and then invest for the future.
Yeah.
But if you don't have a working class, if you don't have people who can work and have a surplus to save, to invest in their education of their children, in their health, then the government won't have money.
The government will not have money. But Sylvie, how realistic is this argument? Because much as we say that those who are already married today and have children, should actually stop giving birth to more children so that we can control the population. But on the flip side, we have a young population. I mean, the country's population over 60% below the age of 25. Most of them every weekend are actually having marriages. And as they get married, there's this belief that we need to start our family. So all of them are yearning to start their new family. So how are we going to stop them from giving birth and raising new families when they have this demand, there's this need for having new families? How do you deal with this?
Eugene, I don't mean again to repeat what I said. In this patriarchal system we live in, where women are regarded to the number of the children they are having, where there is this pressure of getting married when you are a woman, I want women to understand that as many kids you have, it's more burden on you because you are the one, our child care system, which is not very well developed in Africa and many parts in the world, where all the burden of child care, it comes again to us. So as many kids I have to get time for every child. So how am I going to get time for more than the child I'm capable of raising in terms of feeding them, in terms of health care, in terms of educating them? So I really want to make clear on this point that why I'm saying women is because, again, in the patriarchal system, I will not change the system today, but progressively, I have a hope that it will change. Women should take the lead and understand that it's my body, and I have to measure everything around that. So coming to the preaching of every day from our churches, from our family, from our aunties, everywhere, people are pushed to get married when they are not ready, psychologically, maybe financially also. I think it's time as a country we put measures to regulate all those conversations around us in the churches, in the communities, the bridal shower we have every day, where you are told as a woman you are going to get married, have kids, and it's as if we are called for that. And then everyone take the song. So you are called to get married, to have kids, and to have children. But not, rarely in those meetings I have had, you should have the kid you are capable of managing. So personally, I'm really calling for women to take the lead, because if we don't care about ourselves, no one will care about ourselves.
Right. I mean, let us bring that to the table, Professor, because how do you tell a young man and a lady who are just getting married today that saying, hey, we are concerned about the population explosion, and so we are concerned that the country will not have enough to actually, offer you all the basic requirements that you need, that is expected from government. And so we are calling on you to just give birth to just, let's say, one kid, or just 2 kids are enough. Yet these people feel that there's this pressure. When are you giving birth? When is your baby coming? So how do we deal with this issue as young people? That's what I'm listening to you right now.
That's an interesting discussion. Like I said, the best way to bring it to the table is starting with the end in mind. I don't care very much about the number of children you want to have. I want to be assured that you take care of them. So, I mean, if you rush to have a child like the next day you get married, sure, but are you sure you're going to raise them? Remember, the future is much tougher than the past. In the past, if you had a huge chunk of land or a farm, then you go and till the land and get food and survive. That's it. In future, you need to survive in your head. Yeah. Now, you need to educate these kids. You need to take care of them. You need to make sure they're healthy. Have you invested for them? Have you planned for them? Can you take care of them? So if you have all this on table and then say, sure, I can take time and take care of them, I say I'm happy with that. And the another thing I'm saying, if you want to have 10 children, remember the health factor involved. If you don't space these children, your health is compromised.
Right, you're compromising your life.
Yeah.
Let's get back to the issue of the contraceptives, because again, there's been this concern of the lack of proper knowledge, because most people just, have this blanket statement that contraceptives are bad, they have side effects on you, you'll grow big, you'll have this and that. And we've seen a big gap from the health practitioners, even the pharmacists. When you go to buy a contraceptive, they do not give you the full details. I just want the morning after pill, and they'll give it to you. So how do we deal with this gap? How do we fill this gap of the lack of information, Sylvie?
Thank you very much, Eugene. That is one point which we should clarify here. How many women knows the type of contraception which are there? How many even educated women, let's talk about ourselves, knows about the type of contraception? There is this myth behind contraception because I saw my sister taking some type of contraception and gaining some weight, and then I have bias toward that. Yeah. There is this thing, myself as an educated person, the first time I went to take it, I had to call my sister, which one should I get? Yeah. I was lucky to go to a health practitioner who had to give me a full of information on different range of contraception. Yeah. And I didn't have to rely again to a friend, to a sister, or someone like that. So for me, I think there is a need of the government putting regulations or giving enough time to our practitioners to have time with us women, because when we are going there, either we have a problem, you get a contraception, and so unless you are talkative like me, where you have to take more time and say this and this and this, but if it's a policy that any woman before really getting has enough time, so the woman I know, and the doctor knows that it's my right to ask so many questions. Right. I know there is no law prohibiting them to give us enough time, but you realize that you are inconveniencing, and even the people on the queue are tired of you staying longer there. Yeah. So I really need our health sector and the health practitioner to raise awareness on this, so that any woman taking it understands.
Has the information.
Because there are different types of contraception which suit your body. You may also have complications to all of them. They even go for a surgical one, where I think that he's the best person to talk about the details.
So meaning in a nutshell, there are options, but what we need is more information about these options.
More information, deciding, so that I don't see just the side effect, because some get big, other reduce weight. Right. If I have to take that as a woman, I will never go to take one.
You'll never go to take it.
Yes.
Professor, doctor, you know, one of the things, of course, talking about that is the stigma attached to this, and also the age of consent, the adolescents, deciding when do they go to get this, because we know we have a high number of teenage pregnancies coming up, and so these young people, what do they do? How do we deal with them as far as the access to this contraceptives is concerned? If they come to a pharmacy, if they come to your hospital, they're under the age of 18 or just closer there. How do we deal with them? Do we give it to them? Do we not give it to them?
We give it to them. I mean, there's no way where you can say you don't give it to them. I can tell you, Nsanga, that if you invest in family planning, you reduce 17 to 30% maternal mortality, death worldwide. I mean, if you don't give them, this is where people go for abortions, and septic abortion, and death, and more complication than that. So there's no way to shy away from that.
There's no way to shy away from that.
No.
The religious leaders, how are we going to be dealing with them? Because most of them, over close to 80–90% of the hospitals, schools are owned by the religious leaders, mostly the Catholic churches, and of course we know the stance of the Catholic Church.
You know, when we talk about family planning, we are not people should understand it straight that we're not encouraging people to get involved in sexual behavior.
Yes.
We are against it. But what we're saying here, if you happen to have it, and what? Yeah? So this is what you're talking about. And family planning is about people who are married. When should you have a child? When should you have next one? After how long? And what do you have to do?
Right.
We're talking about unmet need. We're talking about having a child when you really planned for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi. Thank you so much. Sylvie, probably would have actually talked about the issue of the role of men here. Or do you want, because we've always seen people say that men also need to have the morning after pill.
Yes. I really want to talk about the issue of men involvement, not only as supportive people, but responsible, feel that there is a need of bringing this issue together and making them arrive at themselves getting the type of contraception. I think the doctor can talk more about that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.